Hi, everybody. Welcome to another series in the Halloween Psychic Series where we have these great psychics from all over the world and from all sorts of incredible places. Now, this psychic is one of my best friends, Alan Salmi, and he is actually a very deep reader. He's got a lot going for him, and I wanted to introduce him. Hi, Alan.
Hi, how are you doing? This is evening time, so good evening.
Okay. Yeah, well, when people see this, it'll be any time in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that's it. So remember, the HalloweenPsychicFair.com, Halloween Psychics, is where you can check it out and find Alan amongst all the other psychics. So what are you going to do for the Psychic Fair?
Well, you could call it sort of psychologically minded tarot reading. Since I'm trained in several different types of psychotherapy, I have a tendency to look at my readings in those terms, but I can kind of work on other kinds of questions too. But a lot of times what people are really going through, the cards can give them a good idea of that. And then my background in counseling people is a little extra thing that I can put in and all my years of experience and everything too. So that's primarily what I'll be doing. The other thing is I do have a big background in astrology. And if people have, and they want to spend a little time and have questions about their astrological chart, if it's already done, I could certainly talk with them about that and give them some insights into it.
And so that is it, because I do know on a personal note, you do more than just the idea, and believe in more than just like the natal chart, the simple natal chart that everybody deals with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing is, a lot of people, well, the general public thinks of like just the sun signs, okay? And a lot of people don't even know that there are other planets out there and that they can fit into a chart and everything. But my particular emphasis in astrology and what I've been doing for the last 15 years or so is focusing more on the medieval methods. A lot of people look at astrology as more of a psychological system, and it certainly can be. But what happens is you can use the chart in that way, but it kind of was boring for me since I'm a psychotherapist. So I've kind of wanted to look at more concrete things to do in regards to the astrological chart. So this allows me to look with kind of different eyes.
But mostly you're going to be doing tarot reading. Can you tell us a little bit how, I mean, you've been at this for a long time. How you got here to be being a tarot reader?
Well, one of the things about it is it's basically forms of divination, okay? And divination is a fancy term of knowing the divine mind in a sense. And there are numerous systems of that. You know, one of them, for instance, is the tarot. There are other things. If you go to Africa, they have bones that they throw, and the pattern that they show up in shows you something of what's going on. The thing that happened before the tarot in medieval times was something called geomantic divination, where you made patterns in the sand, and there were certain rules for reading that. And in later developments, the rules started to be used to, they started to use astrology. That's my cat's tail. He loves to be near me. They started to use some astrological rules to kind of work with this geomantic divination also. So what winds up happening is the way that I think of things working, and this works for whether it's astrology or tarot, is there's a very old saying, and it's supposed to be, you know, ancient wisdom. And the line is, as above, so below. Well, what does that mean? Well, in modern terms, they were trying to say the universe is a hologram, but they didn't have the words for a hologram, in that the pattern of the universe now is a reflection of what's going on with the individual. This is how you can look at the pattern of an astrological chart and get an idea of what was unique to that person at the time that they were born. Or there's actually another method of using astrology. It's called horary, H-O-R-A-R-Y, where the time that the person asks you a question, you do a chart and you can get an answer to it. But that idea that the time has a unique pattern and that pattern has a kind of stamp with it that you can actually read and find things out about is really important, and it can be used for a number of different forms of divination. And the tarot is just one of them. One of the things that happens, in astrology especially, and this is just a little rant that I go on sometimes, people think, oh, Mars is doing this to me, or Mercury's retrograde, therefore I'm going to be doing this. Let me give you a little different way of looking at it. If your clock comes to noon, that's a sign that it's noon and that it's time to go to lunch. The clock coming to noon doesn't make it lunchtime. It's not like it forces lunchtime upon you, but it is literally a sign, and you have something that tells you, oh, here's the sign I was looking for, that it's now noon. So I better go to lunch. I can't do much work because other people will be at lunch. So you have a good time to do something. In the same way, astrology gives you signs as to what's appropriate and what's important. And you can read the signs to know about a person, or you can read the signs to see what's going to be happening. In the same way, remarkably, the tarot can be used that way too. And what happens, all right, I got the cat moved away. What happens is, the way that you lay down the cards, it's called a spread, can give you part of the answer. So sometimes I just do something simple. I put a card down, one is past, one is present, one is future, and then you look to see what the cards are. And you can get an indication of what's the story to be told. And as you talk with the person, those patterns can start to form a more visible kind of thing. And sometimes it can be really enlightening. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a stretch for people. I have sat down, for instance, I was doing things in a fairly fancy restaurant, and I got to a table with a bunch of girls' night out, and they were like, oh, let's all get our cards read, which meant that I had maybe 45 minutes of business, which I was happy about. And I started just randomly reading one person, and I started telling her what the cards meant. She went, oh my God. And I could tell that she was having a big emotional reaction. And it was something that really struck her heart. I think it was relationship oriented or whatever. And the other women who knew her well were like really surprised at what I was saying. But the cards also gave the answer to what was going on. And that's part of the reason why we do the readings, to get that other information that you don't know.
That's a terrific way of doing it. So you've been out doing it. You've been out, as everyone knows. Alan knows a lot of people. He's also a big participant in lots of the different aspects of it. One thing, he used to be a host of Pagan Science Radio, and amongst other things.
Pagan Science Radio. We did that for a few months. That was rather fun. Yeah.
So absolutely. So maybe you'll see him on the various broadcasts we put out there. So let me offer this. So amongst you've talked a lot about your ability with both tarot and astrology, out there. So this month, and maybe you can help us out, is first of all, we start the month of October with a nice full moon, and we end on the month with a full moon.
Yeah, it's a good time. This is really, in case people haven't noticed, the world is changing a lot. And interestingly enough, there was actually an article in the New York Times a while ago, and it said, well, this COVID shows that astrologers, nobody predicted this. You can actually go back about 15 years, and there's a book where somebody talked about what was happening this year and the fact that things were going to be changing and that there were going to be very important things and even the possibility of disease occurring. So a lot of the astrologers knew that stuff was going to be happening this year. And I know that a lot of people are affected by a lot of different things here. It's been difficult for people. It's been difficult for me being sequestered away. People have, are intensifying their relationships if you're quarantining with somebody, or you're cut off in certain ways from people that you love. There can be problems with the economy as a result of all this. Times like these are really when divination can give us some answers, or at least let us know, oh, we're going to be okay, or we're on the right track. You know, in difficult times, people come to readers like me and they look to see about guidance. And that's kind of what it's about. Let me give you one little example of how I think of things. There's an idea called fan-shaped destiny. And it's very simple. Imagine you're walking down a jungle path, and the path splits off into three parts. One part, your fate is sealed. You're going to be running into cannibals and you're going to have a lot of trouble. Another path, your fate is sealed there and you're going to run into a tiger. The third path, though, might well be the local missionary who, you know, has been told to keep his eyes open for you. Well, those fates are sealed, but it's your decision as to which path to go down. And that's where divination can help you. It can give you an idea of what your odds are, how to get them a little bit better, and to make just a little bit of a shift in the coincidences or in your luck to give you a little bit of an advantage, especially in times like this. And that can be very worthwhile.
And that's beautifully said. So you can get a reading with Alan at HalloweenPsychics.com. You can check it out right there. We're putting out these schedules, and you can go through the entire month of October and review what Alan's done, and you can join him and have him give you some of his insight. I'm very energetic about that sort of style. So one last thought. So what's your favorite part of Halloween?
My favorite part, I think, in a sense, there's the private part and the public part. And the public part is, I think of especially my time when I was in college and we had huge Halloween parties and people would come up with just amazing different costumes. You know, when I was in college, that's when there was a big to-do about these planes going to Saudi Arabia or something that were radar planes. So one guy showed up at our Halloween party with wings and a fake radar dome on his back, you know, and three guys showed up as someone's stereo. Back when people used stereos and there was a turntable and everything, there was one guy as the turntable, two guys as the speakers, you know. So that was always one of the fun things, to see how people's imagination comes out, you know, at times like this. The private part, being in the esoteric community, this is also part of our memorial time. And this is a time to look back on the year, to remember people that have passed, and some of that is very important now, especially. But it's also thought to be a time when the year will open up again, especially in November, when the veil is going to be a little bit lighter after Halloween, and we'll be returning to our normal times. But October in itself is supposed to be a much more magical time, and that can be felt in a number of different ways. I actually have a friend of mine who sees more ghosts during this month than any other time. And when she was working in a hospital, it was a little difficult for her because she would start talking to people that weren't there.
I think this year is going to be seen even greater. As part of the Halloween Psychic Fair, there will be on Halloween morning, there will be a full moon ritual in the morning, because the full moon is actually in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be a morning ritual so that you can join us, let us mourn. We got a lot of activities out of it. So Alan, thank you for being a part of this. HalloweenPsychics.com. You can find Alan on Facebook. Where else?
Alan Salmi. Facebook's one of the easiest places. If you really wanted to email, you could go to alan.salmi, S-A-L-M-I. Oh, Alan is spelled A-L-A-N. All the other Alans spelled their name wrong. alan.salmi@gmail.com. You know, so that was pretty easy. So it's easy to get me.
And if not, go, of course, through Halloween Psychic, HalloweenPsychicFair.com, where we have him listed with us. And by the time you're seeing this video, you'll know that too. And so blessings, everybody. And let me be the first to wish you happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone.